Yes, most people call me Cindy, and I'm president of the Frederick Douglass Neighborhood Association. And I'm here with fellow board members and my vice president, Cynthia Hodges, my secretary, treasurer, Heather Nelson, our assistant secretary, Jamie Hodges. I don't think our secretary, Laura's here, right? Laura. And board member Louis Lemieux is back there. Who am I missing? Annette is in Greece, so she's not here. Annette is a member of the Messiah Baptist Church, and she's on our board as well. And Carol Griffin is on our board. Thank you. So you saw Carol when you signed in for your speech. So welcome everybody, and our honorary historian Willie Wilson Jr. is here as well. So. Did you know that Frederick Douglass Neighborhood Association is 10 years old this year? So pretty cool, right? So Lynn Smith, a lot of you know Lynn, so she started the association 10 years ago and has been organizing the speech since 2016. So this would be the 8th year, right? Because 2026 would be the 10th, right? Yeah? Yeah. If I'm doing my math right. I think I said this was the 10th and I said it was the 9th. Don't mind me. But we're so happy that you could come out and see this beautiful garden. We've been working hard. We have a whole gardening crew that's been working hard on it. But I will save my remarks about the garden for the end because today, right now, we're here to be focused on this important speech. This Frederick Douglass's address on the 4th of July. What to the slave is the 4th of July? So I'm going to invite my historian, Willie Wilson, up. While he's coming, I'll give some instruction. So there are 44 paragraphs, and readers will align on this side of the tent, 5 at a time, 6 at a time. As the speech progresses, you'll line yourselves up, and you'll be ready to step right up to the mic. There is a clipboard here, so you can clip your speech or whatever you brought so that it doesn't blow away, or you can hold it. This microphone is so the audience can hear. This microphone is so the folks on cable can hear. So thank you, Brockton Cable, for coming out. We appreciate you so much, your faithfulness every year to come and film this just historic event, this annual event. We appreciate it. And also, Michael brought his daughter, Sophia, who's also going to read today. So that's exciting. So without further ado, let's get it started.
Good afternoon. I'm so glad to be here, and it's a beautiful day. Just so you know, what is the reason why the garden is here and the plaque. But before we talk about Frederick Douglass, we want to just mention that this whole area was called Setauket by the indigenous people, the Wampanoag Indians. But Frederick Douglass actually spoke at the Freedom Tree, the sycamore tree, which is right down the street. There's a plaque there signifying the site. But this was the site of one of North Bridgewater's, which was Brockton's name, was the site of one of their Underground Railroad stations. So that's the significance in terms of Frederick Douglass. He actually came to North Bridgewater more than once, and it's recorded in the newspaper that preceded the Brockton Enterprise, which was the North Bridgewater Gazette. And so we're very happy to be here. Those of you you might have been here last month for Juneteenth because the Frederick Douglass Association actually sponsored the reading of Frederick Douglass's Lessons of the Hour. And so some of you probably saw that on cable or heard about it. That speech was written or was delivered 130 years ago. But the speech we're doing today was actually delivered 172 years ago in Rochester, New York, at Corinthian Hall in Rochester, New York. So with that said, it's a very powerful speech. There are 20 speeches Douglass recorded or wrote thousands of speeches actually, but there are 20 that are more famous than the others, and of course this is the most famous. Again, July 5th, 1852, and this is paragraph 1. Mr. President, friends, and fellow citizens, the task before me is one which requires much previous thought and study for its proper performance. The papers and placards say that I am to deliver a 4th of July oration. This certainly sounds large and out of the common way, for it is true that I have often had the privilege to speak in this beautiful hall and to address many who now honor me with their presence. The fact is, ladies and gentlemen, the distance between this platform and the slave plantation from which I escaped is considerable, and the difficulties to be overcome in getting from the latter to the former are by no means slight. That I am here today is, to me, a matter of astonishment as well as gratitude.
I'm reading paragraph 2 in English. This, for the purpose of this celebration, is the 4th of July. It is the birthday of your national independence and of your political freedom. This to you is what the Passover was to the emancipated people of God. It carries your minds back to the day and to the act of your great deliverance. This celebration also marks the beginning of another year of your national life. It reminds you that the Republic of America is now 76 years old. I'm glad, fellow citizens, that your nation is so young. You are, even now, only in the beginning of your national career, still lingering in the period of childhood. I repeat, I am glad this is so. There is hope in this thought, and hope is much needed under the dark clouds which lower above the horizon. Paragraph 3. Fellow citizens, the simple story is that 76 years ago, the people of this country were British subjects. The style and the title of your sovereign people, in which you now glory, was not then born. You were under the British crown. Your fathers esteemed the English government as the home government. England as the fatherland, although a considerable distance from your home, impose, in the exercise of its parental prerogatives, upon its colonial children such restraints, burdens, and limitations as, in its mature judgment, it deemed wise, right, and proper.
I'm Jody. I'm reading paragraph 4 in English. But your fathers, who had not adopted the idea of the infallibility of government and the absolute character of its acts, presumed to differ from the home government in respect to the wisdom and the justice of some of those burdens and restraints. They went so far as to pronounce the measures of government unjust, unreasonable, and oppressive, and altogether such as ought not to be quietly submitted to. I scarcely need say, fellow citizens, that my opinion of those measures fully accords with that of your fathers. Feeling themselves harshly and unjustly treated by the home government, your fathers, like men of honesty and men of spirit, earnestly sought redress. They petitioned and remonstrated. They did so in decorous, respectful, and loyal manner. This, however, did not answer the purpose. They saw themselves treated with sovereign indifference, coldness, and scorn.
Good day. My name is Malika Mims, and I'm reading paragraph 5 and 6. Oh, I'm a little taller. Oh, do you want me to hold it?
You can hold it if
Oh,
you want.
okay.
Go ahead.
Do I need to hold?
Yeah.
Okay.
You
Okay.
do need to hold right up to your mouth.
Okay. Right here. Oh, all right. 5 and 6. Close. Okay. All right. Oppression makes a wise man mad. Your fathers became restive under this treatment. They felt themselves the victims of grievous wrongs, wholly incurable in the colonial capacity. With brave men, there is always a remedy for oppression. Just here, the idea of a total separation of the colonies from the crown was born. It was a startling idea, much more so than we, at this distance of time, regard it. The timid and the prudent of that day were, of course, shocked and alarmed by it. Their opposition to then dangerous thought was earnest and powerful, but amid all their terror and affrighted vociferations against it, the alarming and revolutionary idea moved on, and the country with it. On the 2nd of July, 1776, the old Continental Congress, to the dismay of the lovers of ease and the worshippers of property, quaffed that dreadful idea with all the authority of national sanction. They did so in the form of a resolution. We seldom hit up resolutions drawn up in our day whose transparency is at all equal it. Resolved that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown.
I got it. Thank you. Oh, okay. Citizens, your father made that good resolution. They succeeded, and today you reap the fruits of their success. The freedom gained is yours, and you, therefore, may properly celebrate this anniversary. The 4th of July is the first great fact in your nation's history, the very ring bolt in the chain of your yet undeveloped destiny. Fellow citizens, I am not wanting in respect for the fathers of this republic. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were brave men. I cannot contemplate their great deeds with less than admiration. They were statesmen, patriots, and heroes, and for the good they did and the principles they contended for, I will unite with you to honor their memory.
They loved their country better than their own private interests, and all will concede that it is a rare virtue that ought to command respect. He who will, intelligently, lay down his life for his country is a man whom it is not in human nature to despise. Your fathers staked their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor on the cause of their country.
Say your name, Patrick.
Patrick Quinn, yeah.
Hi, Carol Griffin. I am reading paragraph 10 in English. Hold it? Yeah. Okay. They were peacemen, but they preferred revolution to peaceful submission to bondage. They were quiet men, but they did not shrink from agitating against oppression. They showed forbearance, but they knew its limits. They believed in order, but not in the order of tyranny. With them, nothing was settled that was not right. With them, justice, liberty, and humanity were final, not slavery and oppression. You may well cherish the memory of such men. They were great in their day and generation. Their solid manhood stands out the more as we contrast it with these degenerate times.
Christopher Diorio, paragraph 11. How circumspect, exact, and proportionate were all their movements. How unlike the politicians of an hour. Their statesmanship looked beyond the passing moment and stretched away in strength into the distant future. Fully appreciating the hardship to be encountered, firmly believing in the right of their cause, wisely measuring the terrible odds against them, your fathers, the fathers of this republic laid the cornerstone of the national superstructure, which has risen and still rises in grandeur around you. Of this fundamental work, this day is the anniversary.
Hi, my name is Karen Kenny. I'm reading paragraph 12. My business, if I have any here today, is with the present. The accepted time with God and His cause is the ever living now. We have to do the past, only we can make it useful to the present and to the future. Now is the time, the important time. Your fathers have lived, died, and loved, and have done their work, and they have done much of it well. You live and must die, and you must do your work. You have no right to enjoy a child's share in the labor of your fathers unless your children are to be blessed by your labors. You have no right to wear out and waste the hard-earned fame of your fathers to cover your indolence.
Steve Thomas, see chapter 13. Okay. Fellow citizens, pardon me. Allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I, or those I represent, to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence to us?
Susan Thomasy, paragraph 14. Would to God, both for your sakes and ours, that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions. Then would my task be light and my burden easy and delightful.
O meu nome é Sofia e estarei a ler o parágrafo 15 em português e o parágrafo 16 em inglês. My name is Sophia and I'll be reading paragraph 15 in Portuguese and paragraph 16 in English. Mas não é esse o estado da questão. Digo-o com uma triste sensação de disparidade entre nós. Eu não estou incluído no âmbito deste glorioso aniversário. A sua alta independência apenas revela a distância incomensurável entre nós. The blessings in which you, this day, rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought life and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice, I must mourn. To drag a man in fetters into the grand illuminated temple of liberty and call upon him to join you in joyous anthems, were inhuman mockery and sacrilegious irony. Do you mean, citizens, to mock me by asking me to speak today? Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions, whose chains, heavy and grievous, yesterday are today rendered more intolerable by the jubilee shouts that reach them.
My name is Jamie Hodges, and I'm going to be reading paragraphs 17 and 18 in English. My subject, then fellow citizens, is American slavery. I shall see this day from the slave's point of view, standing here identified with the American bondman, making his wrongs mine. I do not hesitate to declare with all my soul that the character and conduct of this nation never looked blacker to me than on this 4th of July. whether we turn to the declarations of the past or to the professions of the present. The conduct of nations seemed equally hideous and revolting. America is false to the past, false to the present, and solemnly binds herself to the false to the future. Standing with God and then crushed and bleeding slave on this occasion, I will, in the name of humanity, which is outraged in the name of liberty, which is feathered in the name of the Constitution and the Bible, which are disregarded and trampled upon, dare to call in question and to denounce with all emphasis I can command everything that serves to perpetrate slavery, the great sin and the shame of America. I will not equivocate, I will not excuse. I will use the severest language I can command, and yet not one word shall escape me that any man whose judgment is not blinded by prejudice or who is not at the heart a slaveholder shall not confess to be right and just.
I'm Jacqueline Rose, and I'll be reading 19 and 20 in English. I fancy I hear some of my audience say, "It is just in this circumstance that you and your brother abolitionists failed to make a favorable impression on the public mind. Would you argue more and denounce less? Would you persuade more and rebuke less? Your cause would be much more likely to succeed. But I submit, where all is plain, there is nothing to be argued. What point in the anti-slavery creed would you have me argue? Must I undertake to prove that a slave is a man? The slaveholders themselves acknowledge it in the enactment and the laws of their government. They acknowledge it when they punish disobedience on the part of the slave. There are 72 crimes in the state of Virginia which, if committed by a black man, subject him to the punishment of death, while only 2 of the same crimes will subject a white man to the like punishment. What is this but the acknowledgement that the slave is a moral, intellectual, and responsible being?"
I'm Lee Bigger, and I'll be reading 21 and 22 in English. Southern statutes books are covered with enactments forbidding, under severe fines and penalties, the teaching of the slave to read or to write. When you can point to any such laws in reference to the beasts of the field, then I may consent to argue the manhood of the slave. When the dogs in your streets, when the fowls of the air, when the cattle on your hills, when the fish of the sea, and the reptiles that crawl shall be unable to distinguish the slave from a brute, then will I argue with you that the slave is a man. For the present, it is enough to affirm the equal manhood of the Negro race. Is it not astonishing that, while we are plowing, planting, and reaping, using all kinds of mechanical tools, erecting houses, constructing bridges, building ships, working in metals of brass, iron, copper, silver, and gold, that while we are reading, writing, and ciphering, acting as clerks, merchants, and secretaries, having among us lawyers, doctors, ministers, poets, authors, editors, orators, and teachers, that while we are engaged in all manner of enterprises common to other men, digging gold in California, capturing the whale in the Pacific, feeding sheep and cattle on the hillside, living, moving, acting, thinking, planning, living in families as husbands, wives, and children, and above all, confessing and worshiping the Christian's God, and looking hopefully for life and immortality beyond the grave. We are called upon to prove that we are men.
Hi, I'm Malika, and I will be reading paragraph 23 in English. Would you have me argue that man is entitled to liberty? That he is the rightful owner of his body, his own body? You have already declared it. Must I argue the wrongfulness of slavery? Is it to be settled by the rules of logic and augmentation? As a matter beset with great difficulty, involving a doubtful application of the principle of justice, hard to be understood? How should I look today in the presence of Americans to show that men have a natural right to freedom? To do so would be to make myself ridiculous and to offer an insult to your understanding. There is not a man beneath the canopy of heaven that does not know that slavery is wrong for him.
My name is Frances Jeffries, and I'll be reading paragraphs 24 and 26. What am I to argue that it is wrong to make men brutes, to rob them of their liberty, to work them without wages, to keep them ignorant of their relations to their fellow men, to beat them with sticks, to flail their flesh with the lash, to load their limbs with irons, to hunt them with dogs, to sell them at auction, to sunder their families, to knock out their teeth, to burn their flesh, to starve them into obedience and submission to their masters. Must I argue that a system thus marked with blood and stained with pollutions is wrong? No, I will not. I have better employments for my time and strength than such arguments would imply.
Hello, I'm Karen. I'm reading chapter 26. Verse 25. What then remains is to be argued? Is it that slavery is not divine, that God did not establish it, that our doctors of divinity are mistaken? There is blasphemy in the thought. That which is inhuman cannot be divine. Who can reason on such a proposition? I cannot. The time for such argument is past.
At a time like this, scorching irony, not convincing argument, is needed. Oh, had I the ability and could reach the nation's ear, I would today pour out a fiery stream of biting ridicule, blasting reproach, withering sarcasm, and stern rebuke. For it is not light that is needed, but a fire. It is not the gentle shower, but thunder. We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of the nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and its crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced.
Okay, Malika, I am reading paragraph 27, the question of this beautiful speech in English. What to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all other days in the year the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty an unholy license, your national greatness, swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoicing are empty and heartless. Your denunciations of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity are to him mere bombast, fraud, deception, impiety, and hypocrisy. A thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages.
I'm Mark Osborne, and I'll be reading paragraph 28 in French and 29 in English. Il n'y a pas une nation sur terre coupable de pratiques plus choquantes et sanglantes que le peuple de ces États-Unis à cette heure même. Allez où vous voulez, cherchez où vous pouvez, parcourez toutes les monarchies et les despotismes de l'Ancien Monde, recherchez tous les abus, et quand vous avez trouvé le dernier, mettez vos faits à côté des pratiques quotidiennes de cette nation, et vous direz avec moi que pour une barbarie révoltante et une hypocrisie éhontée, l'Amérique règne sans rival. Take the American slave trade, which is especially prosperous just now and carried on in all the large towns and cities in one half of this confederacy. In several states, this trade is a chief source of wealth. It is called the internal slave trade, in order to divert from it the horror with which the foreign slave trade is contemplated. That trade has long since been denounced by this government as piracy, as an execrable traffic. To arrest it, this nation keeps a squadron at immense cost on the coast of Africa. Everywhere in this country, it is safe to speak of this foreign slave trade as a most inhuman traffic, opposed alike to the law of God and of man. It is, however, a notable fact that while so much execration is poured out by Americans upon those engaged in the foreign slave trade, the men engaged in the slave trade between the states pass without condemnation, and their business is deemed honorable.
I'm Linda Campbell, and I'll be reading paragraph 30 in English. Behold, the practical operation of this eternal slave trade, the American trade, sustained by American politics and American religion. Here you will see men and women reared like swine for the market. You know what a swine drover is? I will show you a man drover. They inhabit all our southern states. They permeated the country and crowded the highways of the nation with droves of human stock. You will see one of these human flesh jobbers armed with pistol, whipped with boiled knife, driving a company of 100 men, women, and children from the Potomac to the slave market at New Orleans. These wretched people are to be sold singly or in lots to suit purchasers. They are food for the cotton field and the deadly sugar mill.
I'm Jody, and I'll be reading paragraph 31 in English. Mark the sad procession as it moves warily along, and the inhuman wretch who drives them. Hear his savage yells and his blood-chilling oaths as he hurries on his affrighted captives. There, see the old man with locks thinned and gray. Cast one glance, if you please, upon that young mother, whose shoulders are bare to the scorching sun, her briny tears falling on the brow of the babe in her arms. See, too, that girl of 13, weeping, yes, weeping, as she thinks of the mother from whom she has been torn. The drove moves tardily. Heat and sorrow have nearly consumed their strength. Suddenly, you hear a quick snap, like the discharge of a rifle. The fetters clank and the chain rattles simultaneously. Your ears are saluted with a scream that seems to have torn its way to the center of your soul. The crack you heard was the sound of the slave whip. The scream you heard was from the woman you saw with the babe. Her speed had faltered under the weight of her child and her chains. That gash on her shoulder tells her to move on.
Patrick Quinn, paragraph 32. Follow the drove to New Orleans. Attend the auction. See men examined like horses. See the forms of women rudely and brutally exposed to the shocking gaze of American slave buyers. See the drove sold and separated forever, and never forget the deep, sad sobs that arose from the scattered multitude. Tell me, citizens, where under the sun you can witness a spectacle more fiendish and shocking. Yet this is but a glance at the American slave trade as it exists at this moment in the United States.
Fellow citizens, this murderous traffic is today in active operation in this boasted republic. In the solitude of my spirit, I see clouds of dust raised on the highways of the South. I see the bleeding footsteps. I hear the doleful wail of fettered humanity on the way to the slave markets, where the victims are to be sold like horses, sheep, and swine, knocked off to the highest bidder. There I see the tenderest ties ruthlessly broken to gratify the lust, caprice, and rapacity of the buyers and sellers of men.
Louis Lemieux, and I'll be reading paragraph 34 and 35 in English. By an act of the American Congress, not yet 2 years old, slavery has been nationalized in its most horrible and revolting form. Mason and Dixon's line has been obliterated. New York has become as Virginia, and the power to hold, hunt, and sell men, women, and children as slaves remains no longer a mere state institution, but is now an institution of the whole United States. The power is co-extensive with the Star-Spangled Banner and American Christianity. Where these go, may also go the merciless slave hunter. Where these are, man is not sacred. He is a bird for the sportsman's gun. By that most foul and fiendish of all human decrees, the liberty and person of every man are put in peril. Your broad Republican domain is hunting ground for men.
Carol Griffin, reading paragraph 36 in English. Your lawmakers have commanded all good citizens to engage in this hellish sport. Your president, your secretary of state enforce as a duty you owe to your free and glorious country and to your God that you do this accursed thing. Not fewer than 40 Americans have, within the past 2 years, been hunted down and without a moment's warning, hurried away in chains and consigned to slavery and excruciating torture. Some of these have been wives and children, dependent on them for bread. But of this, no account was made. The right of the hunter to his prey stands superior to the right of marriage and to all rights in this republic, the rights of God included.
Miles Jackson, I'll be reading paragraph 37. For black men, there are neither laws or justice, humanity nor religion. The fugitive slave law makes mercy to them a crime and bribes the judge who tries them. An American judge gets $10 for every victim he consigns to slavery, and $5 when he fails to do so. The oath of any two civilians is sufficient. Under this hell-black enactment to send the most pious and exemplary black men into the remorseless jaws of slavery. His own testimony is nothing. He can't bring no witness for himself. The minister of American justice is bound by the law to hear but one side, and that side is the side of oppression. Let this damning fact be perpetually told. Let it be thundered around the world that in tyrant killing, king hating, people loving, democratic Christian America, the seats of justice are filled with judges who hold their offices under an open and palatable bribe and are bound in deciding in the case of a man's liberty to hear only his accusers.
Heather Nelson, paragraph 38 in English. In glaring violation of justice, in shameless disregard of the form of administrating law, in cunning arrangement to entrap the defenseless, in a diabolical intent, this fugitive slave law stands alone in the annals of triangular legislation.
Chapter 39, Steve Thomasy, in English. Americans, your Republican politics, not less than your Republican religion, are flagrantly inconsistent. You boast of your love of liberty, your superior civilization, and your pure Christianity, while the whole political power of the nation is solemnly pledged to support and perpetuate the enslavement of 3 millions of your countrymen. You hurl your anathemas at the crowned-headed tyrants of Russia and Austria, and you pride yourself on your democratic institutions, while you yourselves consent to be the mere tools and bodyguards of the tyrants of Virginia and Carolina. You invite to your shores fugitives of oppression from abroad. Honor them with banquets, greet them with ovations, cheer them, toast them, salute them, protect them, and pour out your money to them like water. But the fugitives from your own land you advertise, hunt, arrest, shoot, and kill.
Susan Thomasy, paragraph 40 in English. You discourse eloquently on the dignity of labor, yet you sustain a system which in its very essence casts a stigma upon labor. You can bare your bosom to the storm of British artillery to throw off a 3-penny tax on tea, and yet wring the last hard-earned farthing from the grasp of the black laborers of your country. You profess to believe, quote, that of one blood God made all nations of men to dwell on the face of all the earth, and hath commanded all men everywhere to love one another, unquote. Yet you notoriously hate and glory in your hatred all men whose skins are not colored like your own.
Cindy Pendergast, paragraph 41 in English. You declare before the world and are understood by the world to declare that you hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And yet, you hold securely in a bondage which, according to your own Thomas Jefferson, is worse than the ages of that which your fathers rose in rebellion to oppose, a 7th part of the inhabitants of your country.
Tamisha Civil, number 42. fellow citizens, I will not enlarge further on the national inconsistencies. The existence of slavery in this country brands your republicanism as a sham, your humanity as a base presence, and your Christianity as a lie. It destroys your moral power abroad. It's corrupt your politicians at home. It saps the foundation of religion. It makes your name a hissing and a word to a mocking earth. Be warned, a horrible reptile is coiled up in your nation's bosom. The venomous creature is nursing at the tender breast of your youthful republic. For the love of God, tear away and fling from you the hideous monster, and let the weight of 20 million crush and destroy it forever.
Willie Wilson, paragraphs 43 and 44. Allow me to say in conclusion, notwithstanding the dark picture I have this day presented of the state of the nation, I do not despair of this country. There are forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of slavery. I therefore leave off where I began, with hope. While drawing encouragement from the Declaration of Independence, the great principles it contains, and the genius of American institutions, my spirit is cheered by the obvious tendencies of the age. Nations do not now stand in the same relation to each other that they did ages ago. No nation can now shut itself from the surrounding world, trot round in the same old path of its fathers without interference. The time when such could be done, but a change has now come over the affairs of mankind. Walled cities and empires have become unfashionable. The arm of commerce has borne away the gates of the strong city. Intelligence is penetrating the darkest corners of the globe. Wind, steam, and lightning are its chartered agents. Oceans no longer divide but link nations together. From Boston to London is now a holiday excursion. Space is comparatively annihilated. Thoughts expressed on one side of the Atlantic are distinctively heard on the other. In the fervent aspirations of William Lloyd Garrison, I say, and let every heart join in saying it. Speed the day when human blood shall cease to flow, and every chime be understood, the claims of human brotherhood, and each return for evil good, not blow for blow. That day will come, all feuds to end, and change into a faithful friend, each foe. So this is the, thank you all for participating. This is literally the 10th year. And I do want to mention the fact that Frederick Douglass also spoke in Newton. He spoke in Weymouth. He spoke in Abington. When he escaped slavery, he lived in New Bedford. And then he moved from New Bedford. He lived in Lynn, where he wrote his first biography, The Narratives of a Slave. And then later moved to Rochester, and from there to Washington, D.C. And now Cindy.
We're celebrating today an amazing history, a connection to the past that cannot be forgotten. Where we've come from, we cannot ever sleep, because then we'll take for granted the fight that was fought. It's still being fought in some places. Why do we do it? We do it to bring community together. We do it because of our history. We do it because we're connected. We're connected by our history, and we're connected by our future. right? We're here today to say we're bonded together. We love this city. We love each other. We love the history, but we love the future. We're looking back, but we're looking ahead. This is one of my favorite quotes. Without struggle, there is no progress. You know how I say it? Struggle is opportunity. That's the way I look at it. We cannot be avoided. Struggle is part of our life. And if we see it as a tool that we're going to overcome together, guess what? We're going to win. So when struggle comes, let's look around and let's look for the helpers. We're not looking for the ones that are just negative, beating down. We're looking for the helpers to say, let's look forward. Let's look for solutions. Right? I'm thankful today for each of you that have come out. Some of you have come out every year for this. Some are new. But we're going to continue this. This garden is a space. It's a community space that we want to celebrate and remember. Anybody that walks by, they'll wonder, what's going on? And we're going to celebrate our history, right? We're going to celebrate community here. As I mentioned earlier, it's 10 years. So it's something to keep going forward, right? I want to take a moment, if I may, to give some acknowledgments. All this didn't just poof happen, right? First of all, I want to acknowledge my friend Willie Wilson. Willie is one of our original board members. He's one of our original board members and just an amazing person, but so committed to history and so committed to making sure people understand where we've come from. Willie, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your commitment to our community and for your support of this effort, Frederick Douglass Neighborhood Association. And so I just want to give you this to say thank you. A small token of our appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to tell you a quick little story, if I may. Do you guys have a few minutes? All right. So when I first started, I've been working on this street for almost 15 years now, and this was just vacant, scorching in the sun. And then a few people tried to do a few things, but Lynn Smith was the one that really had a vision and got this garden started, assembled volunteers. And so recently, the association has elected new officers and a new board, and we're committed to see it going forward. So Cynthia Hodges is here. So Cynthia called me up one day and was like, we're gonna do something for Juneteenth, and I just can see this garden, replanted and reinvigorated. And so she says, I'm gonna call Home Depot and see what they can do. Well, Home Depot said, oh, guess what? We pick 3 projects a year to beautify for Juneteenth. We're gonna choose this garden. So they donated the rocks, the mulch, the plants, the grass seed. We overseeded with grass seed. All this stuff got delivered, right? And so she pulled together volunteers. Actually was on vacation. I was on the other side of the country, so I couldn't even help. But she organized some volunteers, and Carol was there. Carol showed up and said, how is this going to get done? There's no way. But guess what? People came through. People showed up. Folks from Messiah Baptist Church. 2 Haitian men just came walking through and said, we can help. And they took their tools up in their hands and they went to town. And so Carol's story, I'm going to tell your story. So she had to leave and go to work. So she said, well, I don't know how this will all get done, but she said, I'm just gonna do this one section. So she did this little pathway over here. She came back at 2:30. It was all planted. It was done. There was just a few rocks needed to be spread. And I'm gonna tell on her, she said to me, I feel like that's how faith is. I don't know how it's gonna all work out. But in the end, you just do your step, and it all comes through. How powerful. So powerful. I love that. But Cynthia, thank you for you taking the steps that you took to put together the people. Darlene Gashlin, I don't think she's here today, but Cynthia, Darlene, and Sophia from Home Depot, they executed this whole donation. So Cynthia, I want to give this to you as a thank you. And that's what it takes, partnership and community, right? Partnership and community. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. It was much appreciated.
Yes.
Thanks, Cindy.
And I have this for Darlene, if you could
Okay.
make sure she gets it, okay?
Thank you.
I can't not mention Mass Hire. Last summer, they rebuilt all the wooden flower boxes, the team at Mass Hire, and so I got to give them credit for that. And they are working with the team from Susie Lordy from 24 Hour Power to design a mural. So that's going to be going up. So speaking of that brick wall, that beautiful brick wall, do you remember what used to be on that brick wall on the corner? The graffiti, right? In every single picture, the graffiti there. So I want to make a special mention to my friends at Love Alliance. So Pastor Louis is here, and I'll have you come up. So our friends at Love Alliance Church, and that's actually the church I go to as well, but they're always willing to do a cleanup day. We have second Sunday. So the second Sunday of every month, instead of having church, we do a community outreach event, right? And so this is just part of the passion of this church. And so for many years, that second Sunday, we've come and weeded and kept up with the garden. But my friend Thomas, I said, Thomas, we got to get that graffiti off the wall. So he brought his power washer. And so we started hitting it with the power washer. It was not coming off that wall. I called up Irving's and I was like, do you have any solvent? Do you have something? They're like, we have graffiti remover. Guess what? Sprayed it on, and that's what did the trick. So we were able to work on it. You can still see a little, but God bless, right? One step at a time, one step at a time. But I want to give Love Alliance a thank you. Just a small token of our appreciation of your partnership, because again, that's what it takes, right? It takes partnership. So once all these plants got planted recently, here you go, Louis. Thank you. So once all the plants got planted, who was going to water them? What's going to happen, right? So Carol Griffin and Heather and Cynthia, Darlene, they organized. Annette's not here, I mentioned her earlier, a watering schedule. And our friends at Firestone, right here, their first bay, right when you go around the corner, there's a hose hookup. They said, yeah, you can use our water. There's an electric cord plug. Yeah, you can use our electricity. So guess what? This morning, they got a thank you card and 2 dozen donuts. So they have been a great partner for us as well, and so appreciative. They'll come around. They come out here on break. You know, what a beautiful thing, right? And so, Carol, as a thank you of your coordinated effort to make sure everything got watered. Thank you so much. And Heather Nelson, where is she? She's still here. So Heather works for Harbor One. So Heather helped water. She got her team from Harbor One Bank to come out and water as well. So, you know, activating, guess what? Struggle creates opportunity, right? Opportunity to be a blessing. Opportunity to be part of something, right? You can't look at struggle as something to be avoided. We want to do that all the time. And guess what? That makes us a victim, right? Sorry, I'm going to preach for a second because guess what? When you're walking around in that victim mode, it's not productive. It blinds you. Look for the opportunities. Look for the opportunities. Amen? All right. Who's left? Messiah Baptist. Come up here, you. So Annette is on the board. So I said, Annette, we got to keep this mowed. I said, do you guys have a mower? I'll just, you know, if I can use your mower, I'll just come up and mow. I work right here, right? She goes, no, I'm going to get somebody to mow for you. So this is Keith. Keith comes up and mows the lawn for us. Thank you so much. So I have Annette's name on here. No,
I'll make sure she gets
you
it.
get it. You get it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Pleasure meeting you.
You too. So Keith takes care of our lawn, makes sure it stays looking beautiful, right? Who's left? Mark and Jackie. Come on up here. So I'm bringing up Mark and Jackie because you don't even know. When we said, hey, we need some help planting, hey, we need some help, these not only did they provide the strength, but the plants. So Jackie Rose, a lot of you know Jackie Rose, buzz around, right? Thank you, Jackie. Jackie, come on in from the rain. So Jackie calls me up and says, I have a ton of plants from the Bridgewater Garden Club, would you like them? That little island right on the other side of the police car, we planted all of that. One day we dug it all up and planted it. So it's an extension of our garden, right? And so I just want to thank you again. It's community, it's partnership. And so there's so many more that I could thank. I think we're going to get rained out here, but what I want to say, yep. So what I want to say is that there are many here that have gotten their hands in the dirt here helping to plant, the Thomases, others. Eleanor, you've been around so long too, just helping. Yes, supporting. So we want to say thank you to all of you. But I can't stop without mentioning, besides Home Depot with the plants, Norwood Garden Center, Packard Farm, who else? Tri-Town gave the stone, Sione's, yeah. So sometimes you just gotta ask, and people see the opportunity. So also I have to say, my team at NeighborWorks helped get everything on the legal end of things with the 501c3 get settled. So it takes everything, behind the scenes, in front, right? So when we're in the garden and people are saying thank you, I say you're welcome back, but I say it on behalf of all of us, right? On behalf of all of us. So, and I see my coworker there, Jamila. Thank you for coming out. But I think that's all I have. I appreciate you all. Thank you for coming out again. And tomorrow there is an ice cream social here. Love Alliance is going to be here. It's the second Sunday. We're going to have an ice cream social if you want to stop by. The ice cream truck is there if you want to grab an ice cream on your way out. And everybody's invited to come and have food at Messiah, the cookout. All right, please come out. All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate you. Thank you for BCA.